Unfortunately, she'll need his help to get the house ready for sale, because it'll take more than some new paint on the walls and clearing out a lifetime of memories to get this place on the market. But some houses don't want to be sold, and Louise and Mark's home has other plans for both of them. The next book that I see is Daisy Hates, and this is by Jessa Hastings. Let's read and see what this book is all about. Daisy Hates is Princess of London's most notorious family, raised by her older brother Julian, a London gang lord, after their parents were murdered in front of them 12 years ago. Daisy has never lived beyond his watchful gaze. Julian's line of work means that Daisy's life is complicated, and things don't become any less complex when she falls hard for Christian Ames, the beautiful and emotionally unavailable boy she's been involved with the past few months, who also happens to be one of the few men in London who doesn't answer to Julian. Christian's life is no walk in the park either, being in love with the Magnolia Parks, his best friend's girlfriend and all. He's happy enough to use Daisy to disguise his true affections. That is, until she starts to infiltrate those two. As Daisy and Christian's romance blossoms into something neither were anticipating, Daisy, Christian, and Julian have come to terms with the fact that in this life everything comes at a price. As their relationship intersects and tangles, they all learn that sometimes life's most worthwhile pursuits can only be paid in blood. And now we have Arsenic and Adobe, and that is by Mia Menasala. Looks interesting. It says, when Lila McBagel moves back home to recover from a horrible breakup, her life seems to be following all the typical rom-com tropes. She's tasked with saving her Tia Rosa's failing restaurant, and she has to deal with a group of matchmaking aunties who shower her with love and judgment. But when a notoriously nasty food critic, who happens to be her ex-boyfriend, drops dead after a confrontation with Lila, her life quickly swerves from Nora Ephron-Romp to Agatha Christie case, with the cops treating her like she's the one and only suspect, and the shady landlord looking to finally kick the McBagel family out and resell the storefront. Lila is left with no choice but to conduct her own investigation. Armed with the nosy anti-network, her barista bud, and her trusted Dakin, Lagatia, Lila takes on this tasty, twisted case, and finally soon finds her own neck on the chopping block. The next book looks like a very good mystery, A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. I can't wait to reread this one. When Chloe Davis was 12, 6 teenage girls went missing Is she paranoid, seeing parallels from her own past that aren't actually there? Or for the second time in her life, is Chloe about to unmask a killer? From the debut author Stacey Willingham comes a masterfully done, typical lyrical thriller. I can't wait to read this one. Now this next book looks amazingly good. Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson. Can true love survive her true crime obsession? Let's see what this one is all about. PhD candidate Phoebe Walsh has always been obsessed with the true crime. She's even analyzing the genre in her dissertation. If it can manage to finish writing it, it is hard to find the time when she spends the summer in Florida cleaning out her childhood home, dealing with her obnoxiously good-natured younger brother, and grappling with the complicated feelings of mourning her father she hadn't had a relationship with in years. It doesn't help that she has low-key convinced that her new neighbor, Sam Dennings, is a serial killer. He may dress business casual by day, but at night he's clearly up to something. It's not long before Phoebe realizes that Sam might be much scarier. A genuinely nice guy who can pierce her armor to reach her vulnerable heart. The next book that we are going to take a look at is called Hidden Pictures by Jason Rekulak, R-E-K-U-L-A-K. Mallory Quinn is fresh out of rehab when she takes a job babysitting Ted and Carolyn's Maxwell's 5-year-old son Teddy. She immediately bonds with this sweet boy who is never without his sketchbook. His drawings are usual fare, trees, rabbits, balloons. But one day, he draws something different. A man dragging a woman's lifeless body. Then his stick figures evolve into increasingly sophisticated sketches depicting one disturbing scene after another. Is Teddy troubled, or is he channeling forces he cannot possibly understand? Knowing just how crazy it all sounds, Mallory must decipher the images and save Teddy before it's too late. And then we have The Real Mrs. Tobias by Sally Coslow. The Real Mrs. Tobias, please stand up. It is 2018 in New York, and 3 women are all known as Mrs. Tobias. Veronica, the matriarch, her daughter-in-law Mel, Mel's daughter-in-law Bertie, are trying to navigate personal difficulties, some of which are with one another. Veronica and Mel, despite having little in common, are both psychotherapists who are more skilled at helping people than solving their own problems. Bertie is still dealing with the culture shock of moving to New York and marrying into the Tobias clan, is pushed to her limits when her husband Micah gets into trouble. No amount of badgering from his steely grandmother, smart-mouth mother, or disillusioned wife can convince Micah to own up to what he's done. Overwhelmed, Bertie bolts, taking along their young daughter to her Midwestern home, hoping that space, warmth, wisdom with her own feisty grandmother will help her find a path forward. And while Bertie begins to find comfort in a local bookstore and in the arms of her old boyfriend, back in New York, her absence stirs up some long-simmering troubles and forces the Tobiases to reconsider their relationships to one another, and ultimately what that means to be a family. We have a couple more books left. This is called The Lost Book of Bon, and it is by Brianna Lubaskis. I can't wait to see what this one is all about. Germany, 1946. Emily Clark is a librarian, not a soldier. precious literature that was plundered by the Nazis. The Offbach Archival Depot and its work make it less attention than returning art to its rightful owners. But for Emmy, those who sees the book's personalized inscriptions and the notes written on the page margins, it feels just as important. On Emmy's first day at work, she finds a poetry collection by Rainier Maria Rilke with a handwritten dedication on the title page. My dearest Annalise, my brave Edelweiss pirate. Emily is instantly intrigued by the story behind the dedication and becomes determined to figure out what happened to Annalise and the author of the message. The hunt for the rightful owner of the book leads Emmy to two sisters, a horrifying betrayal and an extraordinary protest against the Nazis that was held in Berlin at the height of the war. Hundreds of brave men gathered in the streets after their Jewish husbands were detained by the Gestapo. Through freezing rain and RAF bombings, the women faced down certain death if they did what so few others dared to do under the Third Reich. They said no. Emily grapples with her own ghost as she begins to wonder if she's only chasing two more. What she finds instead is powerful. The next book is The Mayfair Bookshop, and it is by Eliza Knight. The novel of Nancy Minford, The Pursuit of Happiness. 1938. She was one of 6 sparkling Minford wives known for her sitting quips, stylish dress, and brush eyes. The Nancy Minford seemingly dazzling life was really one of turmoil, with a perpetuity unfaithful and broke husband, 2 Nazi sympathizer sisters, and her hopes of motherhood dashed forever. Nancy finds respite by taking a job at a Haywood Hill bookshop in Mayfair, hoping to make ends meet and discover a new life. Present day, when book curator Lucy St. Clair lands a gig working at Haywood Hill, she can't get off the plane fast enough. Not only is she heading to start a healing process from the loss of her mother, but it's a dream come true to set foot in the legendary bookstore. Doubly excited, she brings with her her first edition of Nancy's work, one that has somewhat mysteriously inscription from the author. Soon she discovers her life and Nancy's are intertwined, and it all comes back to the Little London Bookshop, a place that changes the lives of 2 women from different eras in most surprisingly ways. We have The Dead Guy Next Door by Lucy Score, a Riley Thorne novel. This one looks quite intriguing. That's nice. Normal life. Is that too much to ask? For Riley Thorne, it is. Divorced, broke, living with a pack of elderly roommates, and those hallucinations Riley is diligently ignoring. Her mom is convinced Riley must be clairvoyant, just when things seem like they can't get worse, and so hot he should be. Legal private investigator shows up on her doorstep looking for the guy next door, who turns up murdered. Investigator Nick Santiago doesn't play well with others. He's a rebel, a black sheep, a man who prefers a buffet of options to being stuck with the same entree every night, if you catch my drift. But when the pretty, possibly psychic Riley lands at the top of the suspect list for the murder, Nick immediately volunteers to find out who did it. He likes solving mysteries and has nothing to do with wanting to flex his heroic muscles for Riley. At least that's what he's trying to convince himself of. Nick and Riley must join forces to find out who really pulled the trigger, all while keeping a by-the-book, grudge-holding detective at bay and dealing with the gorgeous stranger claiming he's arrived to help Riley phone her psychic gifts, all before the killer sets its sights on Riley. And we have another book. It's called A Head Full of Ghosts. It's a novel by Paul Tremblay. I hope this one is about ghosts. Let's see. The lives of the those long ago events from her childhood. She was just 8 years old. Painful memories and long buried secrets that clash with the television broadcast and the internet blogs began to surface. The last book that we have today is called Local Woman Missing, and it is by Mary Kubica. The Local Woman Missing. Let's see what this book is all about. People don't just disappear without a trace. Shelley Debo is the first to go missing. Then Meredith Dickey and her 6-year-old Delilah vanished just blocks away from where Shelby was last seen, striking fear into the once peaceful community. After an exclusive search that yields more questions than answers, the case eventually goes cold.